Hi and welcome to Wildflash. This is my weekly news series where I discuss anything of interest, especially to my channel, over the past 7 days. So I would say the two main areas of news in the last week have been Watcher's Q&A. The game director of World of Warcraft did a Q&A a couple of days ago. So there's a few things to talk about in that. And also an interesting testing schedule has gone up on the PTR. Now at BlizzCon, they talked about micro holidays. So these aren't like the Winter's Veil type things or Hallow's End or anything like that last for a couple of weeks and you can get rewards, collect currency, get rewards, that sort of thing. These don't give direct rewards. It's sort of a bit of fun, something to sort of just last a day, maybe 2 days, but break the pattern of your sort of normal day-to-day stuff, I suppose. Now, they mentioned a few in particular. A couple of them, just to remind you, they've fleshed out some more details on. So, because basically there is a testing schedule going on right now on the PTR, and there's a lot of them. In fact, I'll just put it up there. You can sort of see they've already started these. Each day they're testing another micro holiday that's going to be presumably coming out over the next 12 months of 2017. So the ones we know a bit about so far, the Anchorage Remembrance Day, which will be in January. As I say, we don't know exactly when patch 7.1.5 is going to go live. I did do a video last week suggesting that it really should be January. We now know it will be January. Watcher has said that in his QA. It's going to be January. We don't know exactly when. But we know Anchorage Remembrance Day is, oh dear, is it the 22nd of January? Something like that, which means it has to be out before then. So you would think the first half, or round about mid-January perhaps, for the patch. Now, what you're going to do in this one is, it sort of like combines events from the opening of the Gates of Anchorage in vanilla times, as well as the stuff after it. Because you can turn things in, like resources from Silithus itself, and get commendations. All right, and these don't get you any rewards or anything. It's for your faction. You're trying to get, it's basically Alliance versus Horde, and you're trying to get as many commendations as possible to try and basically beat the opposite faction. And then you can, there's various events around Silithus that were also a big thing at the time, but I think these occurred, I think these were after you opened the gates, where you can kill the cultists and get various bits of a disguise. There's like 3 bits. There's a cowl, there was shoulders and a chest, I think, something like that. And that allows you to summon an elemental at one of these stones. If you click on the stones, normally you just get blasted by lightning. But if you've got a disguise on, you've got the special stone, you can summon an elemental, and then that sort of drops one that allows you to do the same thing again, but for a bigger elemental, and so on. And you used to get decent loot off these. Now, these it's not for the purpose of getting loot off them. It's again for commendations. And the idea is, after this day, it only, as far as I know, only lasts a day. They did say at BlizzCon these micro holidays last like 1 or 2 days. But because it's called Anchorage Remembrance Day, I'm going to guess it's just 1 day. Whichever faction on your realm or combined realms gets the most commendations, they get a special flag or banner outside the gates of Anchorage that will last the whole year until the next Anchorage Remembrance Day. So it's really just bragging rights. It's nothing you have to do. You don't feel you have to do it. It's like, oh no, I'm not going to be online that day, or I've got raid day or something like that. Oh no, it doesn't matter. I mean, no one goes to Silithus anyway. It's not a big deal. It's just there as a little distraction in case you're just going, oh, World Quest again today. Every day's the same. Well, on these particular days, it's not. The other one that's been tested is the Kirin Tor pub crawl, tavern crawl. It's called. You don't call them pubs in America, do you? And the idea is, like, one of the taverns in Dalaran will become active, and you can talk to various wizards there. You can interact with the food and get a well-fed buff. You can also get hats, special hats that will last for 4 hours. Again, you don't get to keep them forever. And then the idea is that someone at some point decides to move on to the next tavern, so you sort of move around to the next one. And that's all there is to it, as far as I can tell. It's just a little bit of silliness there in Dalaran. And there's a number of these, as you can see from the list, that are going on the PTR right now, every day, up until December the 23rd. There's going to be a new one being tested. So, if you're interested in trying those out, get yourself into the PTR and give them a go. I'm not sure that I'm going to try too many of them. I'll see if I do when it goes live. Now, in terms of Watcher's Q&A, there are a few things that I want to talk about in a separate video. I'm going to talk about legendaries and then a couple of things he said about Havoc Demon Hunters and Retribution Paladins in a separate one. But he did discuss a number of classes and the changes that are coming. Because in 7.1.5, of course, there's going to be a number of class changes. There's going to be tweaks to talents. The emphasis is very much on making sure that certain talents don't really stand out as being the obvious one to take, and that there are, they don't want dead talents either. And yes, I know that we all said all the way through alpha and beta, this talent is a dead talent. It will never be used in any situation. This talent will always be used. The other two will never get a look in, even though they might be okay in themselves. And it was roundly ignored, but they've now, decided, oh, look, these talents, are too good or not good enough. We need to do something. So better late than never. But they did note something which is very, very true. And I think they've probably got Shadow Priests especially in mind, although there could well be other ones in it as well. They said simulations and top place in the world can execute high skill requirement rotations almost perfectly, but most players won't. And so what they're warning about is that there could be some players who are using a particular talent because they see the top ranked players of that spec using it, and they use it and their DPS sucks as a result. And it may just be that they're not using that talent is really, really difficult to use. I suppose one of the main ones for this one will be the Shadow Priest Surrender to Madness. It seems to be the talent to take. You just have to take it. But also, it occurs to me that it's a bit like, I suppose, Avenging Wrath of Retribution Paladins, but a more extreme version in that I need to make sure I time my DPS cooldowns very carefully, because I do all my damage in that time. I blast to the top of the meters during that time. And in the other times, all right, I'm still trying to maximise my damage. But I know that I'm not doing enough. So when a fight ends just before that DPS cooldown comes off cooldown, I know my DPS is going to be rubbish. So if I time it poorly, if I use it, for example, and then end up not getting to DPS much because I'm having to switch targets all the time, I've used it poorly and I'm going to suffer. Surrender to Madness is very much like that, I feel. Only they die if they use it at a bad time. Yeah. So I think players who are not that expert at it are probably trying it and they just end up dying all the time, not doing very good damage and appearing to be bad players. When in actual fact, they're not necessarily bad players. They're just not great players. So the point they're trying to make and what Watcher was trying to make, and I'd absolutely back him up on this one, is sometimes you just need to say, okay, well, I'm not good enough at that talent. There's another talent that, do you know what? I will do better with that talent, and in my raid group, that's still probably going to be good enough for me to do really well, and that people should consider those. Instead of just going, and they've said this before in the past, and it's absolutely right, you shouldn't just look at the top DPS and go, well, they use those talents, so that's what I should use, because that's not always the case. So, artifact power knowledge they've talked about. Now, some people know that when 7.2 comes out, that's not 7.1.5, that's 7.2, a bit further ahead, there are going to be new traits on your artifact weapon. There's going to be one new major trait, the one with the gold dragon around it, as well as several other traits as well. Now, the thought will occur to people, indeed has occurred to people. So, like at the moment, I've got my 35th trait on my Ashbringer. Okay, hurrah. I can still spend more, but for really small gains. So what I'm planning on doing now is putting artifact power onto my protection and holy weapons to just at least get the traits on those, just in case someone in a fit of madness ever asks me to tank or heal. So, but some people will be thinking to themselves, well, when 7.2 comes around and we've got these traits, I want to get those traits straight away. So what I should really do is to save up all my artifact power, put it onto that weapon, but not spend it. Just leave it there. And then when 7.2 comes out, I can just go get all the traits. What they've said is they are not going to create a system that rewards you for holding on to your artifact power. So they are going to come up with a system which means you're not going to be helped by doing that. So don't do that, basically. They also talked about, the boost for alts. Of course, I've talked about this before. So it's not just a case that on a character that's only just recently leveled, you can buy artifact knowledge up to a certain point right away without having to wait for the work orders to be done. But if it's an alt and you've already got on your main lots of artifact knowledge, then you can actually just buy for 1,000 order resources a massive boost that's Battle.net bound and send it to your alts. So if I ding an alt in January when the patch comes out, I will be at least Artifact Knowledge 20. I can't remember what I'm on at the moment. It's 17 or 18. I think it's 18. I think I get 18 today. I can't remember, something like that. But I mean, they did say specifically, like, if you're Artifact Knowledge 20, you can just buy an Artifact Knowledge 15 boost for your alt. So I could ding an alt mid-January and just pay 1,000 order resources, which is also order resources on a character where I have little use for order resources. So I'm saving it on the alt as well. Just say, here you go, Artifact Knowledge 15. Go and do a dungeon and get loads of traits just for one thing. So it will be a lot quicker to catch up with alts as well. We talked about that a bit, but I've already mentioned that. So in terms of the news, that's pretty much where we are now. So if you want to try out the micro holidays, then get yourself onto the PTR, try those. There's a new one every single day, I suppose, to emphasize the fact that they only last a day when it all goes live as well. And that's the best way to test it, I guess, to see how many people, how much like people can realistically do in that amount of time. And the other one, as I say, is what Watch has been talking about. But what he said regarding legendaries, Retribution Paladins and Havoc Demon Hunters, because of that's a particular interest to me, I'll be doing a separate video on that either later tonight or at the weekend. But I hope you found it useful. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share. And until next time, I'll see you later.